My name is Nicel Avellana. I am the school directress of MaryMount Westridge School, and this is my testimony of the miracles that Mama Mary Mediatrix has performed in our life. My encounter with Mama Mary Mediatrix occurred in September of 2005. My husband and I have been working as teachers in Manila then for about 3 years. Months before that, I was already in and out of the hospital for a cough that would not go away. I was also out of breath most of the time and I had difficulty breathing. Because I was also already late in my period for about a month, in one of those trips we had a pregnancy test done and it turned out to be positive. So despite all of my health issues back then, we were very ecstatic when it was confirmed that I was pregnant with our first child. Just a few months after tying the knot, we were finally going to have that. So we were very happy. After one particularly heavy bout of coughing and breathlessness, when I was brought to the medical city yet again, the bomb dropped. I got admitted on my husband's birthday on September 5, and from then on, all news seemed to go downhill. They had found a tumor in my thymus gland, and after a battery of tests, I was diagnosed with having stage 4 thymic carcinoma. The tumor had already metastasized to different areas of my body, including my lungs. My heart was already encased in fluid. As a result, I could not breathe without the help of an oxygen supply. When I would lie down in bed, I would feel like I was drowning, and there was no comfortable position to rest except for sitting down. And even then, I still felt very sick and uncomfortable. During that month-long stay in the hospital, I learned all sorts of medical terminology. The fluid in my heart was called superior vena cava syndrome. It manifested itself with bloating, with my face and one of my breasts really swollen. I had to undergo lumbar puncture to check if the cancer had spread to my bones. It's painful enough, that procedure, when you're not pregnant, but when you have a baby bump and have difficulty breathing, it's really something that you don't want to experience. During my month-long stay in the hospital, I also developed complications. I had hospital-acquired pneumonia, so I had to undergo thoracentesis to remove the fluid from my lungs. I also had x-rays and MRIs done numerous times. The puncture marks for the IV all over my hands and wrists became more and more numerous as the doctors and nurses found it difficult to find a vein as it had shrunk when I had continued chemotherapy a little bit later on during my hospital stay. I also experienced having a blood transfusion for the first time in my life. I had 15 different doctors for virtually each organ of my body, and of course the baby growing inside me. They did not sugarcoat our chances of survival. One doctor told my husband that I only had about 6 hours to live because my breathing and my heart were already compromised. The other said that even if I would make it through, there are no guarantees that my baby will survive. As soon as they would start with the radiotherapy sessions and the chemotherapy, and they needed to do it soon, we would just have to be prepared for the possibility of losing our first child. That my life was already close to being forfeit did not truly register until Dr. Flandes, one of my doctors, asked me, "Do you know how to pray?" So when I reflected on that question, I realized that at that point, my prayers and my faith only skimmed the surface. She then introduced me to Mama Mary Mediatrix of All Grace of Lipa, Batangas, and told me about her miracles. When I told my husband John about it, he said, He wanted to go to the church in Lipa to pray. He felt that he was beckoned to go there. But at the time, he did not know how to get there. You know how difficult it can be to travel to Luzon when you are from the Visayas, and our main areas of concentration or movement was simply limited to Parañaque, Las Piñas, Alabang. So we virtually had no idea how to get to Batangas and commuting at that. But as if by some stroke of divine intervention, and we'd like to think of that time as Mama Mary showing her hand, one of my students also came to visit me in the hospital. John Kevin gave us a picture of Mama Mary Mediatrix. And when we turned the picture around at the back, we saw that there was a little map that led to Carmel Church in Lipa, Batangas. So every Saturday, while I was confined to my hospital bed, my husband would make the trip from Manila to Batangas to ask Mama Mary for help. And he made a pact to Mama Mary during his prayers there. He said, and he told me later on, that if Mama Mary would heal me and give my daughter a chance to live, then he would do what he can to spread the word about her miracle and about her grace. And now, here we are. At that time, I started praying the rosary again too. It's something that I knew how to do when I was younger, but I had completely abandoned it as I grew older because of other priorities that I thought were more important then. Every time that I was taken for radiotherapy with only a lead shield for my pregnant belly to protect my child, or got injected with a cocktail of chemotherapeutic drugs, the human part of me braced itself for the possibility of losing my child. Yet that part, that small part that desperately believed in divine intervention, hoped fervently that Mama Mary would keep my baby safely protected in my womb, and that the toxic drugs would simply slide off her. My doctor also said that she could not give me medication that would allow the baby to strengthen its hold inside my womb because of my condition. Essentially, my baby was on her own. If she was strong enough, she wouldn't get swept away with the treatment. If not, she would simply let go. Our doctors also prepared us for the possibility that if my baby would be born, she may be incomplete or have mental or health defects because of the medication and the treatments that I was receiving. The prognosis for my baby's survival or normal growth was so bleak that even close relatives suggested to have just the baby aborted. After all, it was good as dead anyway. And even if it would live, did we really want a child that was mentally deficient or physically disabled? They asked. I did not even give this suggestion a second thought. My husband and I, we had placed everything in God's hands. And if the Lord wanted us to have a baby that was incomplete or lacking in any way, we would still love and care for him or her. There was nothing we could do then but pray. After every chemo or radiotherapy session, and I did not bleed, we rejoiced. In every ultrasound checkup that showed her continued growth, no matter how small, we prayed some more. I finished 6 cycles of chemotherapy and the first half of my radiotherapeutic treatments with positive results. The tumors that had spread to other areas had been arrested, and I could now breathe easier. Best of all, my baby girl had held on and appeared to be complete physically based on ultrasound imaging. We were just going for my regular prenatal checkup in the 8th month of my pregnancy when my doctor decided to do a cesarean section to deliver my baby that day. She said that my little one was not anymore growing and that the environment in my womb was already toxic for the baby, that the operation had to be done right then and there. Of course, we had no choice but to agree. When I came to the delivery room, After the anesthesia had worn off, it was to the sounds of my doctors excitedly saying, "Oh, what a beautiful baby. There's our miracle baby. So let's take a picture." And one of my doctors kindly took a picture on his smartphone and gave me the printouts the following day. My daughter was no bigger than a 500 ml alcohol container, but with arms and legs. But she had a lusty cry and was complete. She was beautiful. She was our miracle. So after I delivered, I finished my therapeutic treatments and kept going back to my doctors for regular checkups. As the days turned into months and then into years, I eventually recovered, and my daughter continued to thrive after a few weeks stint in the neonatal intensive care unit. Those 6 hours that were given to me turned into 6 days, which turned into 6 months, 6 years, 12 years, and now 15 years after that debacle. I am healthy, actively working, and living a cancer-free life. My daughter, too, has grown up to be an inquisitive, wonderful, and compassionate human being. She consistently ranks at the top of her class, loves to draw, dance, and sing. We named her Maria Carmela in honor of Mama Mary Mediatrix of Carmel Church in Lipa, Batangas. While perhaps the two greatest miracles that Mama Mary gave to us were giving me a new lease on life and allowing my daughter to live and grow, those weren't the only ones. I was in a private hospital back then, and the health insurance that I got from my job was used up in 3 days. As the bills kept piling up, Mama Mary simply sent financial reinforcements through people, allowing us to get and continue with medical treatments. The doctors also slashed down their fees tremendously, and financial help came when it was badly needed. This episode in our life in 2005 to 2006 was just one of the many miracles that Mama Mary continued to give and still continues to shower to us. She allowed us to establish MaryMount Westridge School even with very limited funds, and now she has continued to carry the school up to this day. Even if we are considered the founders, my husband and I acknowledge that human as we are, we could only have done so much. Ultimately, it is Mama Mary's school, and she has gotten us this far, that no matter what happens, she will always carry us and her school through. 2 other major miracles also happened to us even after 2005. In all the literature I've read about cancer and chemotherapeutic treatments, they were in agreement that those who had undergone cancer treatments would be rendered sterile afterwards. Yet, just 3 years after that, we were given another child, a son this time. We believe that Zachary John was an answer to our prayers, since we wanted to have another child who would help protect and care for Carmela, since she was really quite small when she came to us. In 2017, we were also given another son, Rodolfo III, whom we fondly call Tress. He is our youngest miracle. My faith was also challenged again back in 2017 when I suffered paralysis of my left vocal cord. In my profession, the ability to speak was crucial, but at that point, with only one functioning vocal cord, I could barely be heard. Talking was such a strain, and no matter what I did, I could not increase the volume of my voice. When you're working with children, it makes for a very frustrating experience. When I sought medical advice, the first doctor that I went to said that my original voice would not return. When I got a second opinion, the doctor said that while an operation can be done, it would have to be done in Manila because they did not have the capacity to do it here. Again, we prayed and asked Mama Mary for help, and she has not failed us. Now, without any operation done, my voice has returned. And it is through the grace of God and Mama Mary that I am able to let the world hear of this testimony. At about that time too, I started feeling some lumps in my breast. I went to an oncologist to confirm my worst fears, that indeed she found hard lumps in my breast area. She scheduled some tests and a mammogram for me to really be certain. At the time, I had come to believe that indeed the big C had returned with a vengeance. I was scheduled for the tests the following week, and at that point, right in my doctor's clinic, I had no reason to doubt that they were indeed back. She was an experienced doctor, and the fact that I and my husband, who is also a nurse, felt these lumps was the reason that sent us to seek medical opinion. Again, we prayed. We asked Mama Mary to take away these lumps. I had children now, and I pleaded that I again be spared. When I went to take the tests and the mammogram a week later, the results that came out were clear as day. Coincidence? I don't think so. I believe that it was Mama Mary's hand at work again. Yet what happened in 2005 was a turning point in my life. It allowed me to experience firsthand that miracles are real and that Mama Mary is the mediatrix that gives us the grace in our lives. It also made me understand that my purpose is simply not to live for myself, but to touch the lives of others and spread the message of faith, hope, and love. This is what we aim to do in our school, and hopefully through this testimony, this message will reach those who have come to a point in their lives when despair is the only predominant feeling. There is always something better for us, even if our circumstances now will not allow us to see it. We just need to believe, to have faith, to pray. God loves us. Mama Mary loves us. There are things that we cannot understand, events that happen to us that would seem that we have been left to our own devices. And human as we are, it is very easy to rant, to rave, to blame God, to cast aside our faith. But we must continue to believe in the powerful intercession of Mama Mary, Mediatrix of all grace. Let us continue to believe in God. Miracles are real, and they are only a prayer away. God bless us all.